Hello, I'm Palm Beach County Superintendent Donald Fenoy. Thank you for joining us for this community meeting hosted by District 7 School Board Member Dr. Debra Robinson. Tonight you will hear important updates related to the district's next strategic plan and learn more about the equity-focused work undertaken by our school board in recent months. On April 14th, the school board worked together to create a new mission and vision for the district that will also be shared tonight. Both the mission and vision will serve as a strong foundation for the development of our next strategic plan. I know Dr. Robinson is eager to share these updates with you tonight, as well as solicit your feedback during the community meeting using interactive poll questions and the chat box feature. Before she kicks things off, I did want to take a moment to formally introduce her. Dr. Debra Robinson has served on the school board for over 2 decades, and during that time, she has been a tireless advocate for high-quality education. As a school board member, Dr. Robinson leads the charge on addressing the social and emotional needs of students and staff, fairness in the application of disciplinary rules, and the use of disaggregated data to drive the district toward increased equity. She is also a proud graduate of Howard University College of Medicine, and her medical expertise has proven invaluable in this time of COVID-19. I want to personally thank her and the entire school board for taking the time to connect with constituents via these community meetings. We look forward to your continued engagement in this process as we work together to create a better educational system for every student in Palm Beach County. Thank you for participating and have a wonderful evening.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for joining us. This is my official community input meeting on the school district's upcoming strategic plan and to update you on the process by which we will form a new 5-year plan that will guide us on how to do this very good and important work. So I'm really thrilled that you're here. I hope to have lots of comments in the chat box. I wish we were talking person to person, but you know, the state of affairs, right? And so now I want to turn it over to our moderator for this evening, Miss Amy Litman.
Hi, Dr. Robinson, and hello to everyone at home. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Just as Dr. Robinson said, we of course wish that we could be with you in person, seeing your faces, hearing your voices and your feedback that way, but we are thankful we have this virtual option here tonight to connect with everyone. I'm Amy Litman. I work for the district's communications department, and I will be serving as your moderator this evening. That means I will be monitoring the chat and passing along the questions that you share. As a reminder, the purpose of this meeting is to hear your thoughts on the district's goals for the next several years. We're really thinking long-term, big picture here. Dr. Robinson will share updates on where we're at with the development of the next strategic plan. We want to hear your feedback about the next strategic plan and some other things we're going to bring up tonight throughout the meeting. So we will be offering interactive polls and question prompts. You can get ready for that right now. If you're on your computer, you can open up a new tab and go to menti.com. You can use code 112777471. And that is where you'll be finding some of those interactive questions tonight. And if you happen to be on your phone and you have a computer or another device nearby, you can grab it and go to menti.com there too. So we really look forward to connecting with all of you there, as well as the chat box right here on YouTube. We do realize you may have questions about day-to-day operations or how the new school year is going to look, but we have many other upcoming meetings planned to address those concerns specifically. We recently held a back-to-school community update that you can find on palmbeachschools.org, our website. And tomorrow, actually, at 5 p.m., we will be holding a Facebook Live with district leaders about learning opportunities for students over the summer. So be sure to follow PBCSD on social media. Check with your school's data processor, make sure they have all your contact information correct so you're getting our email newsletters, text message updates, and really staying in the know. Right now, we are in this community engagement phase of developing the next strategic plan, and the district launched a survey about long-term suggestions and goals. We received more than 28,000 responses from the public, and you can tune in for a school board workshop where Dr. Robinson and her peers on the school board will be hearing those results and sharing them with the public. That's on May 5th, next Wednesday. So now let's get to know you all at home through an interactive poll. Again, go to menti.com, use code 11277471. If you happen to be on your computer viewing this right now on YouTube, you can also grab your phone and scan that funky looking thing. It's called a QR code. You can scan it with your phone and it will actually populate at the top when you're in the Photos app and you scan it. There will be a link that you'll click on and that will take you to Menti. So hopefully you're there. If not, we have several of these throughout, so there's still time. But tell us about yourselves. Are you a parent with a child, a grandchild, another family member enrolled at one of our schools? Are you an employee? Are you a parent and an employee? We have plenty of those considering we are such a large employer here in Palm Beach County. Or maybe you're a student who's watching tonight, which is great. Or you could be a community member. So we would love to know who you are out there who's watching right now. And we'll be able to see some of these results as they pop up on the screen too. And in the meantime, you can also go to the chat box here on YouTube and tell us what is your primary reason for joining tonight's community meeting. Dr. Robinson, what do you think is a big reason why your constituents will be joining tonight?
Well, I hope they're joining. I really, really, really hope that students are joining. One of the hardest things is to get the input from the people that we are here to serve primarily, right? And to get that input in a way that they feel free to tell us their whole truth, right? So I'm hoping that they will tell us their experiences and what we need to do and the things we need to focus on in the next 5 years.
Yeah, we can't get better if we don't hear from those people who we are serving. So we can see we have a lot of parents out there, district employees, and 3 students. Look at that. That's amazing. Maybe those students can hop on their phones and text their friends.
Right.
To join as well, that Dr. Robinson, their school board member, wants to hear from them, please. We appreciate all of you who are watching tonight. And you can also go to the chat there and let us know who you are and what you are hoping to really get out of tonight's meeting. Jamie says she just moved to the area and she would love to be more involved because her kids go to public schools. That is great to see. I know a lot of people are moving in from other states, especially over this last year. And we are very happy to have you here. I'm sure Dr. Robinson is happy to have you in her district specifically.
Absolutely, and there's a student. Yay.
There we go. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so glad to see students on here tonight. So next up, Dr. Robinson will be talking about this equity statement. Equity has, of course, been a big focus for her and her time on the dais. So please, Dr. Robinson, take it away.
Well, thank you. So, I need to stop looking at the chat. I'm trying to read the chat. So, I've been looking at Palm Beach County School District disaggregated data for around 24 years. I counted it earlier. And I know that everyone does not have the same chance to prosper in our school district. And that's what I've been fighting about, right? And so for all these years, district leadership has always said that we want all children to succeed. But we have finally, as a board and as a district, taken this critical step on our equity journey to say that we want each child to succeed. Because, equity does not mean equal. Equity is giving each child what they need to succeed. I guess I'm having trouble with that word today. So I am really, really, really happy to say that the school board and district leadership as a whole has taken a stand to say that equity is, in fact, our focus. Equity is like a code word now. I almost don't like the word anymore because it's overused. But I'm really proud of our equity statement that was developed by the school board on March 31st, and I want to read it. So the school district of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequity. We will create equitable and inclusive schools that ensure students have what they need to be successful in school and life. Achieving racial equity requires proactive and continuous investment in historically marginalized groups who have endured centuries of systemic oppression. The School District of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling structures rooted in white advantage and transforming our system by hearing and elevating underrepresented voices, sharing power, recognizing and eliminating bias, and redistributing resources to provide equitable outcomes. The School District of Palm Beach County will take ownership for students' academic mastery, emotional intelligence, and social emotional needs by creating environments where students, families, staff, and communities will develop agency and voice. The School District of Palm Beach County acknowledges the existence of and will eliminate systems, processes, and mindsets that perpetuate race, ethnicity, poverty, disability, language status, undocumented status, religious affiliation, gender identity, and sexual orientation as predictors of achievement. The School District of Palm Beach County will embrace, celebrate, and honor our students, families, staff, and community members and their unique cultural histories while ensuring each student achieves personal and academic success. I love it. I hope you love it. This is how we move to making each student be successful. And so why should we focus on equity? There's this thing called the curb cut effect. We've all seen it, even though you may be like I was and not recognized it. So years ago, in the 70s or so, there was a group of disability advocates that fought to get the cut made in curbs so that people in wheelchairs and others who had mobility troubles could basically cross the street easier. And guess what? We've all benefited from it, right? So I've benefited from it when I was pushing my grandchildren in the stroller. I was able to cross the street. You know, the curb cut at the grocery store. I don't have to bumpity bump with the grocery cart and so forth. And so what that illustrates is that when you do things to benefit the people that have the most disadvantage in a particular area, everyone benefits. And so while our equity statement calls out specific groups that historically have not been advantaged in our school district, we know that everyone will benefit from our equity focused efforts. And so I am thrilled to finally be at a point where we're talking about equity from the dais. So I'm going to move on to our mission and vision statement. I wanted to talk about equity first because our mission statement includes equity. So the new mission statement adopted or developed by the board on April 14th is the mission of the school district of Palm Beach County is to educate, affirm, and inspire each student in an equity embedded school system. Now that, yes, I'm proud of that one. And to move on to our vision statement. So the vision statement developed by the board on April 14th, we envision the school district of Palm Beach County is an educational and working environment where both students and staff are unimpeded by bias or discrimination. Individuals of all backgrounds and experiences are embraced, affirmed, and inspired. Each and every one will succeed and flourish. The school district of Palm Beach County will take ownership for students' academic mastery, emotional intelligence, and social emotional needs by creating environments where students, families, staff, and communities will develop agency and voice. A joy of learning is fostered in each student, and a positive vision for their future is nurtured. Each student's cultural heritage is valued, and their physical, emotional, academic, and social needs are met. We see you. I love it. Does my heart good. And so now back to Amy. So she's going to do a techie thing with you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Thank you for reading those beautiful mission vision statements. We want to hear from those at home who are watching right now. What words or phrases stand out to you? We're going to have a really nice word cloud that you all are going to contribute to, and we're going to bring up on the screen shortly once you get started here. But if you're just jumping in, you're going to go to menti.com, use code 11277471. You can also scan that QR code from your phone in the Photos app there, and we hope you will do that and then tell us what those words or phrases are that really stand out to you. We can actually go backwards to the vision and mission statements again so you can see them and pull out some phrases. I know for me, I really love seeing the word inspire in both the mission and vision. To me, that really brings positive feelings for each and every child who's a part of this school district. Dr. Robinson, I know you made mention of some parts that you're a big fan of in there while you were reading them, and you could really feel that emotion and passion coming from you. What stands out to you?
Well, I really like that closing, we see you, right? So what that means to me is that we see each person, child and adult, as the gift that you are, right? With the talents that you bring, right? That we're not looking at you in this deficit model with what's wrong with you or which way you're not doing what we think you should do, but we see you as a whole wonderful person. And in the ways that you need some work, we're going to work with you on it so that you will reach that measure of success that we hope each and every child reaches. And so for me, it's summed up with, we see you.
We have some of those results from this word cloud here coming in. And look how nice that is. Ownership, cultural heritage, embraced. I love that word in there too. And I think the phrase is individuals of all backgrounds and experiences are embraced, affirmed, and inspired. I think that would be my favorite part, although there's a lot of words in that one phrase. They're all important. So we really appreciate those of you who are contributing to the word cloud here tonight. We also have some who are popping up in the chat too, as well as one of our principals right there, Dr. Epps, who's popping up saying valued. So we really appreciate everyone's feedback about this. So next up,
I want to throw in another comment though before we move on.
Just go for it.
So the word ownership, where we talked about taking ownership for the students' academic mastery, emotional intelligence, and social emotional needs. I've been on the school board 20 years. When I first got on the school board, when I was an outside agitator, as it were, the school district's philosophy was, we'll throw it at you, we'll throw the ball at you. It's up to you whether you catch it, right? And I used to say that I expected the school district, if it took the teacher doing cartwheels on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday for my child to learn math, I expected them to teach the teacher how to do the cartwheels, right? And so now we finally reached a point where we know that that is in fact our job, right? And I hear nothing like we expect to beat people up or be harsh on employees if students are successful, but we need to own this, right? Because that is in fact our job. It's not enough to throw the ball. We need to make sure they catch it. So when that actually came from another board member in our discussion, and I was thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled to hear it. So
I think, and we own as a school district who our students become when they graduate, which I think is a great way to lead into this portrait of a graduate concept.
Yeah, thank you for that. So the portrait of a graduate is a issue, a term, an initiative. I'm not sure what it is that I brought up. It's a focal point for me and actually, if I could roll the clock back a year, I would try to get us to work on the portrait of a graduate first and then work on the strategic plan. But the portrait of the graduate is, what are the skills, the talents, the experiences that we want each of our students to have coming out of high school, right? So, we all know, for example, the list of accomplishments you have to have, for example, to earn a Bright Future Scholarship, right? But there's other things, right? Like, I want you to be a good citizen, right? I want our young people to know how to evaluate the veracity of things that they read, because there's so much information and misinformation that our young people have access to. When I was coming through school, part of the job of the teacher was to basically gather the appropriate information and teach it to me. Young people now can get their own information, but it's so much that who knows what's real, right? And I had a college professor who said, and this was in the 70s, who said, to be published, you need not be right nor sane. And I would say that statement is true on steroids now with the internet. And so I would hope that somehow we teach our young people to evaluate the truthfulness of things that they read. That would be one of my bullet points. I would hope, for example, that we have young people who have all had experiences working together, whether it's team sports or whether it's like marching band or something where each person has their role. And if everybody does what they're assigned to do, it's a wonderful event, right? But I'm interested in knowing what you think a portrait of a graduate looks like. And I think that's our next Mentimeter.
It is. You posed it perfectly to our audience right there. You're going to go on menti.com once again, in case you're just hopping in, use code 11277471. Now, if you're on your computer, you can scan the QR code with your phone. But of course, if you're on your phone and you don't have access to another device, it's no problem. Just put your answers in the chat here. We want to know what should be included in the portrait of a graduate, in your opinion, at home. I can definitely see how Dr. Robinson was mentioning collaboration. That's an extremely important skill that students need going further beyond our classroom walls, beyond that graduation stage. And I think those come from all different kinds of experiences in school. So whatever you think at home, Donalda says resilience. That's an especially powerful word this year, specifically. What do you think of that idea, Dr. Robinson?
Yeah, that's very important. And I see self-sufficiency. That is important as well, because, we're preparing children for a future that we can't even imagine, right? So, yeah, the resilience and self-sufficiency, critical thinking, problem solving, absolutely. Theory of knowledge. Okay, Donalda McCarthy. So, yeah, those are all, I think, very important. Now you make me think how I'm going to measure that, but it's good. It's very good.
Yeah, these are great ways to start that thinking process and some critical thinking on, behalf of our school board and district leaders as well. We have a lot popping up here in the Mendy Poll. This is great to see. Confidence, self-advocacy, college-ready technical skills, emotional maturity. That goes right into effective communication. You can see a lot of themes here, especially critical thinking. That seems to come up a lot. We have a graduate, a 2021 graduate coming up here as well. Congratulations. You're almost there. Tell us how you feel as you're the portrait of a graduate this year. Tell us how you feel the school district has prepared you, or what you'd like to see for your peers coming up behind you.
Absolutely.
See if we have some more in the chat here as well. Empathy, that's a really great one as well. So we so appreciate everyone's feedback, and this is all, I do want to mention, all being recorded by staff to go to the Strategic Plan Steering Committee, and your feedback right now matters. So I wanted to let everyone know that. Dr. Robinson, as that Strategic Plan Steering Committee I just mentioned, that of course part of this process. Tell us, what is a strategic plan?
So a strategic plan is, I call it the superintendent's implementation plan, actually, right? So we're gonna set these goals. You see, there's another document that has the long-term goals from the prior 5 years. We'll set, there we go, long-term goals for the next 5 years. But the how we get there, those details are the nuggets contained within the strategic plan. And so that will be, we'll take all this input, we'll take it to our leadership team, we'll outline a plan, and then the superintendent and everybody in the system actually operationalizes it. So it's kind of the roadmap. It says here it serves as our North Star. I don't know. My North Star, see, I get caught up on words sometimes. My North Star is the portrait of a graduate, but this is definitely the plan on how to get there. And so this is, how do we take all those lovely things that we said, you know, and all the bullet points that you've listed for the portrait of a graduate, how do we operationalize it to make it happen, to make it real? So, you know, the one thing that we will do this time that we did not do last time was that we will stop at intervals at least once a year and measure, one, are we doing what we said we were going to do? And two, are we getting the expected results? And if not, then we know we need to tweak the plan, right? And so it's, you know, in my mind, it's written like with erasable ink, but not with a permanent marker. And the prior one was written with the permanent marker. So we've learned from that. So, you know, things have changed so very much. You know, some of these changes are due to the pandemic. Some changes were going to happen anyway, right? So this is really an effort to get input from you. I'm clear that I have some ideas on where we need to go, but I'm also clear that I don't know everything. And so, you know, the more minds, the better. And so this whole strategic plan with all its various phases is an attempt to bring more minds to the table to outline the plan that will guide the future work of the district. So there's space for community members at every step along the way, right? You'll see here that phase one focuses on evaluating where we are now and where we need to go as a district. That started back in February. We're still in phase one. It kicked off also with community feedback survey that Amy referenced earlier. And it wraps up after this series of community meetings hosted by board members. The school district, as Amy mentioned, formed a steering committee with representation from district office, principals, students, teachers, parents, and some community partners. They began meeting monthly in March, and all meetings were broadcast live and recorded, so you can watch it as it unfolds. You know, more details are on our website, palmbeachschools.org/strategic plan development. And you can watch these meetings. You can watch all our meetings on YouTube. And then in May, we'll transition to the design phase. And I want to invite the community to tune in specifically to our public meeting on May 26th to hear the draft goals that will come forward from this steering committee. And there'll be an opportunity, of course, for you to provide feedback via public comment, in person, or with our recorded messages. We'll also be doing focus groups. So you can email strategicplan@palmbeachschools.org if you're interested in participating. And if you haven't told us so already, right? And so we are scheduled to approve the final goals in May. In July, I'm sorry, which is part of phase 3. This last phase is also one of the most critical because it's all about cultivating relationships to ensure successful implementation of the plan. We know we can't do it alone. I expect parts of this plan will specifically reach out to community partners as we start going through those bullet points that I mentioned. But we need to hear from you. And so now is one opportunity for you to speak up and tell us what are the most important buckets of work for our next strategic plan.
So some of the people in the chat have been asking about the how we're going to get to the what we are talking about. And I think these different buckets are some of how we create graduates who communicate effectively, collaborate, critical thinking. And so we want to hear from you all in this poll. Think a little bit more about the how. And it can be tough to choose between these categories, I must say too. You're going to go to menti.com, use code 11277471. The question is, what should be the district's top priority for the next strategic plan? Mental health and social emotional wellness, school safety, educational equity for every student, accelerating student learning due to COVID-19, investments in technology and associated learning, or another priority that's not listed here. These came out of that community feedback survey that we mentioned earlier as some of the public's top priorities for the next strategic plan. We have Donalda is saying C, educational equity for every student, and we'll shortly be able to bring up those Menti results so we can kind of see them coming in live. I'm gonna make my screen bigger here so we can read it. We have school safety is a big one. And these really intersect with each other, right, Dr. Robinson? I mean, you service mental health, that is, of course, in turn going to help school safety.
Well, yeah, and that's true. I think that the purpose is kind of where do you start, And so if we address, I think, the mental health and social emotional wellness needs of our young people and our employees, that is going to automatically improve school safety, in my opinion. There's other people who would say school safety because they would want to look at the extreme end, so to speak. Like, we already have a law enforcement officer on every campus. That might be their area of focus, but yeah, everything works together. If a student is not feeling well, whether it's physically or socio-emotionally, they're not going to do well. And so that accelerated student learning is not going to take place. So yeah, it's all interconnected, but it's where do you start? What do you focus on?
I know it can be really tough to choose between all of these extremely important priorities. And I think they can all play into the strategic plan in some way. Certainly we're not choosing one and then saying this is all we're doing for the next for many years. Little pieces of each one can help build us up to where we want to go. We also want to invite everyone you can put in the chat, if you don't have access to Mentimeter, your answer to that question. And we want to know as well any questions that you may have about the development of the next strategic plan and those various slides that Dr. Robinson just went over. The idea of a strategic plan can be a little bit, it can be hard to wrap your head around for some people. So if you have any questions about this process, please put them in the chat now. You can also, if you're not comfortable putting it out there for the public, go to strategicplan@palmbeachschools.org with your email and send an email there. That's going to be accessible to you after this meeting as well. And we have one more poll for everyone. Go to menti.com, use that code 11277471. And tell us, would you be interested in attending an in-person community meeting in the future to hear more about the next strategic plan? A is yes, B is no, or C is unsure at this time, which I think has been a lot of our answers for the last, for many of us personally, when it comes to the last year and any plans that we had. So please just let us know, do you feel comfortable, or is that something you'd be interested in? And you can tell us in the chat too if this virtual option works well for you or not. I know for some people it can be easier because you don't have to get somewhere physically. So we will allow for you all to do that while we head into a question and answer session of this meeting tonight. We already have a lot of questions coming into the chat here, but if for some reason someone does not have access to that YouTube chat, once again, you can use Menti and submit your questions that way. Menti.com, 11277471. and let us know if you have any questions there. If for some reason you can't access the chat here on YouTube. But let's see, I'm going to start, we've been getting lots of comments, which is incredible, and see what questions we have here for Dr. Robinson. So Terry Robinson is asking, how are teachers who represent the population actively engaged?
So I think teachers received the survey, and I think teachers their teacher representatives on that strategic planning steering committee, whatever it's called. You know, I'm not doing these terms well, right? And then also there'll be focus groups.
We have a question from Chris from a little bit earlier, asking if you have any preliminary plans to share to achieve equity. On the how. The how for the what.
Okay, so, well, first off, I was scrolling through this chat. So let me just say, equity and equality are not the same thing. And because I don't even know where it was in this chat that I saw it. But so equality is where you give everybody the same thing. So equity, let's talk about a recent equity manifestation here. So when schools closed on March 13th due to the pandemic, and we had to switch within 2 weeks and go all virtual, what we realized is that some children had access to devices, laptops, and so forth at home, and some did not. And the same was true of access to the internet on your device. And so we ramped it up and we distributed, I can't remember how many thousands and thousands of devices. And then along with some of our community partners, we worked to make sure internet access was available for those who did not have it. For those who had, so my grandchildren, for example, did not need to get those devices. They had devices. And so equity, I call equity bless them according to their needs. So if we're looking at the portrait of a graduate, which is why I get fixated on that, if we're trying to get all children to this predefined point, that's our goal. And thrilled if children surpass it. This is not to hold anybody down, right? But if we're trying to get everybody there, then some children will need additional supports, encouragement, whatever, to get them there. And that's what equity really is. So I think some of my plans are showing up now in some of our summer learning plans, because we had children who were behind. Many of those children fell further behind due to the pandemic. And now we are stepping in, acknowledging that, and acknowledging that we must do something. That's part of us taking ownership instead of standing back saying, well, you know, we had it online, they didn't get it, sorry. No, we're stepping up and providing some additional opportunities. So that would be one that I'm comfortable talking about right now. So yeah, but there's a lot in, you know, that will actually be worked out by the superintendent and his leadership team.
While you bring up summer learning, I need to correct myself from earlier, because I said our Facebook Live is tomorrow and my mind was already thinking today's Wednesday. It's not Wednesday, it's Tuesday. Our Facebook Live about summer learning specifically is on Thursday. It will feature Deputy Superintendent Keith Oswald, our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Glenda Sheffield. We really hope that those of you that are on here tonight tune in on Thursday at 5 p.m. on our Facebook page at PBCSD. You can find us there on Facebook. So I need to correct myself from earlier. And while we were on that topic, we have a question from, I think it was N. Stu. I think this must have been in reference to the focus groups, and he was asking how teachers are selected to participate, or how anyone could, selected to participate in those focus groups.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I don't know the clear answer to that. It's my understanding that we have been inundated with people who have volunteered to serve on the focus groups. I don't know if we have the man and woman power to have each and every person who wants to participate. I don't know I just don't know. I don't know if we're planning to do it like in a lottery fashion, or if we're going to choose like teachers, like, you know, a certain number from elementary, a certain from middle, a certain from high. I don't know, but I'll follow up on that. But at this point, I don't have an answer for you.
Oh, Kathy in the chat says we had more than 6,000 people wanting to be part of these focus groups. So thank you, Kathy, for all of your work behind the scenes now and always.
That's a wonderful problem to have, isn't it? Have 6,000 people who want to participate. That's great.
Yeah, that's really incredible. We are still open for questions here. If anybody has additional questions that they want to pop in the chat, I'm going to keep looking. Now, has any budgeting, we have a question about budget for the strategic plan. Has any of that even been discussed or sorted out yet?
No, it's too soon. First, we need to know the what before we know how much it costs, right? I mean, and maybe your point is real life might limit us. That wouldn't be a surprise, but I think we're also learning how to engage our community partners and maybe some of the philanthropic community to help support the work. But first, we have to have a plan. You know, banks won't invest in a business without a business plan, right? So our job is educating children, and I think that we need to really have a plan that is focused on the needs of our students, and then hopefully whatever we don't have, we will be able to get from our partners. Keep your fingers crossed.
So we have a question in Menti that came through. If the plan is for all students to return in the fall, what has been done to make sure it will be safe? Of course, that's not exactly a strategic plan, long-term goal related question, but a question that I'm sure you would be happy to answer, Dr. Robbins.
How do you know that? Just because I'm the one who jumps up and down about this all the time. So, well, so first off, it's premature to know what we need to do in August to make sure everybody's safe, right? So I could tell you that now, for example, we are monitoring the distancing that's reported by the principals. So the central office monitoring how many classrooms are not able to maintain social distancing, and then trying to support so that there's additional layering of protections put in place. I've been maybe a little bit hard on our chief operating officer about improving the ventilation systems, right? Of course, we are still wearing masks and frequent hand washing, and all the things that we know we need to do to keep our children and other people's children safe, right? And also to keep their extended family members safe. So, but August, I'm prayerful that some of these layers of protection will be able to drop, but we have to watch the viral load in the community. So
thank you for sharing that information, or what we know and can expect so far. Looks like we don't have too many questions coming in the chat, but there is a question that we got during a meeting yesterday with your colleague, Mrs. Brill, that I thought was really interesting. And it was about how the strategic plan ends up being implemented at the individual school level. And I think that that's something that's interesting for the audience to hear, if you would like to answer that.
Well, that ends up being a train-the-trainer almost. So once it is outlined, and some of the principals and teachers and others will be part of putting their input into the plan. But then once the plan is all packaged and wrapped up with a bow, so to speak, right, then that gets shared, broad and wide, and including with the principal supervisors working with their principals to talk about what does this mean for you, right? And so, and in your school, and then that gets monitored. As I said, we agreed that we will monitor, more frequently the work as well as the expected outcomes, and so can make course corrections. But the principal is the leader on the campus, so the principal is the one who will take the strategic plan and operationalize it on their campus.
We had a couple of principals who were watching earlier. If they're still in here, maybe they want to expand on that in the chat.
No, so this in-studio individual schools, some can implement, others don't. No. So this will be equity-based, hopefully, prayerfully. That's what it should be. That's what we're walking into this committed to. And so if you have a school, let me go back to the old example just because it's easy with the devices and internet access. So if you have a school where there's, nobody needs a laptop, then that part that might say, make sure everybody has a device and internet access, and the bullet underneath is, contact so and so to get devices for your students. Well, if your students don't need it, you can check that off. So that particular step would not need to be done in that school, right? But it's the outcomes that we're going to be looking at, and the outcomes we're going to expect for everyone, right? And what I would hope, I expect to do, is to take that portrait of a graduate and back map it. So, the last board meeting, I gave a board presentation on algebra access and learning loss for algebra due to the COVID. And so for me, a benchmark will be 8th grade algebra. And so what are we doing with that? Assuming that ends up in the strategic plan as a goal, and the action steps are placed in there, then, if you don't need to do these 3 action steps that are recommended in order to make 8th grade algebra a goal at your school, because you're already doing it, fine. But it's the 8th grade algebra I would be looking at with that example. So.
Thank you for expanding upon that. So
Yeah.
you have a couple of questions in Menti that I will bring up now. One is student voice included in the strategic plan as it's being developed?
Yes, I love the question. We have to do a better job with that. Me individually as a board member, but the district collectively, we have to do a better job. And I saw somewhere in this chat how many student responses we had in the survey. So there's some student voice, but I think we have to figure out how to do this on a regular basis. I do know that the superintendent has said that he will be meeting with student groups on a regular, but you know who I really want to meet with? I want to meet with the opinion leaders that are misbehaving on campus. That's who I want to meet with. I want them to tell me what we need to do. So, but yeah, we're working on it. Feel free to give us ideas on how to connect with young people, because I don't know. So as old as I am, I do remember being young, and I remember that I did not believe that these older people were actually listening, right? And so at this point, I think it just takes time, like repeated sessions where you keep coming back, and then people believe, okay, well, maybe you are listening. But aside from that, like, I don't know. So just students, tell me what to do.
And the best way to connect with them, sometimes it is, whether it's social media or just an email to their inboxes. Some of them were saying that, their parents got the email about these meetings, but they would have loved to get the email about these community as well. So in my communications department, I can say that feedback is heard and that we're always trying to connect more directly with our students. We have a question referencing some of the data that you have brought up at several of the last board meetings around learning. How is that data going to be taken into consideration for the development of the strategic plan, or how do you hope that it is?
Well, yeah, the second part, I think I can answer how I hope. I think the data that I've been showing data because I want people to see the inequities in terms of outcomes, inequities in terms of access, inequities in terms of opportunities, right? Because I think when we stand back and we say we're an A-rated school district and we're all happy, and we go to the graduations, and I always cry because it's just like a wonderful time, and then we can be lulled into believing that we're just doing such a great job because we're an A-rated school district, when in fact the data tells us that we're not meeting the needs of large numbers of students. And so, show the data to highlight the problem. I have a lot of proposed solutions, but I'm also smart enough to know that I need to listen to others who have more experience and who walk that walk, right? Like the parents and the teachers, to hear what they have to say the solution is. And so it's my hope and expectation that this data that I've highlighted, especially the kindergarten and third grade reading and algebra as a benchmark for eighth grade, that it does get incorporated and that the people who should know better than I will present plans on how to address those inequities.
We have a couple more questions from Menti. One of them is, why aren't all schools choice schools? Choice has been talked about in recent weeks in those board meetings.
So I think legally all of our schools are choice schools. I think every school has a choice program, which is a choice school. Now, I'm not sure if the questioner means a full choice school, but I think all of our schools have choice programming. So, and there's inequities there, which I won't bother to go into now. Go back to YouTube. You'll see me complain about that in the past. But anyway.
We have a question that says, how can there be racial equity if discipline is inequitable? That one came from Menti also.
Say it again.
Sure. How can there be racial equity if discipline is inequitable?
So a lot of people would say that the disproportionate discipline against Black students and brown students is a manifestation of systemic and structural racism, right? It is at least a manifestation of implicit bias. And so it's part, addressing the implicit bias and the manifestations thereof is part of the whole I don't want to say plan, because it's not, I don't know if those words end up in the strategic plan, but it's part of, I'm gonna say, my mission. How about that? I can say that.
We're going to start wrapping up now. We have a really good question to end this particular discussion on, but of course this is not the end for discussions, which is why we're going to bring up this question from Tazeen. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. How do we get our students connected to you?
Yeah, I was actually just trying to figure out how to type in this thing. So I'm gonna give you my email if you want it. Is Debra, Debra .Robinson, ROBINSON at palmbeachschools.org.
And we can also tell everyone, if they want to give any feedback directly related to the strategic plan at palmbeachschools.org. I do want to ask this one last question here. I know I said last question, but we have a couple more minutes. So Eva John says, what are plans on getting students and parents who are disadvantaged to have a more active role in the child's learning?
So actually, I do not know what the school district's plans are. I have plans though. So I am chair of an organization called the Coalition for Black Student Achievement. And we have a subcommittee on family and community engagement that's actually brainstorming that now. And in fact, if we pull off everything, next Wednesday, May 5th, we will have a virtual town hall meeting that is the first of hopefully many. It'll be simultaneous, it'll be virtual and in person, to try to pull today's parents into that conversation, right? And so, but at the same time, I realize that parent engagement is so very important. But on the other hand, there's so many unfortunately, who are not so blessed to have parents who can be the participatory parents that we would hope, right? And so we still have to educate those students, and that's partially where the equity comes in. I also think, honestly, there's some equity on a community scale, which is some of the community work, so that if the student needs something, that there's part of that village will step up and help to support that young person, right? But I always get kind of antsy when people ask questions about parent involvement, because there are people in the school district who will basically say that, we can't educate them if their parents don't do thus and so. And the fact that we are now as a board saying that we are taking ownership for their education means that we believe it is our job, right, to make sure they are educated, no matter who their parents are, no matter what they look like, no matter where they live, no matter how much education their parents had, and no matter how much the parents are able to contribute. But yeah, I want to try to get the parents more engaged. Absolutely.
One way that we certainly try to do that is by contacting parents directly, and we always need to make sure that the contact information that we have on file for those parents, so they can stay up to date with what's going on in the district and their schools, to make sure that their contact information is correct. So for all of you who are watching, check with your school's data processor. Make sure that the information that they have to get in touch with you is correct for emergency purposes, but also just for staying involved. And we certainly appreciate everyone who was on this meeting tonight and so involved in the chat, in the Mendy polls. Your feedback has been heard. Dr. Robinson, any last thoughts?
No, we need to do this again. So I really want to hear from students, right? And as I said, May 5th, we'll have to figure out how to get that word out once we get all the technical things set up for the May 5th meeting. And that is being advertised as meeting the needs of Black students. So specifically trying to pull in parents of Black students who may not have been engaged thus far. So.
Well, thank you to all of you who are out there joining us. We do hope that you'll continue to tune in as we have more meetings. Maybe we'll see you all in person in the future. Wouldn't that be nice?
I know, right? All right.
Thank
you,
Dr. Robinson, and for everyone who watched.